Hello, hello, and hello. Welcome to the A Woman's Soul Restored podcast. I am Latanya Y. Hendry, and this is season 5, episode 23. We are moving along, and today I have an exciting young lady who is going to get into what she does, and it's very interesting. So we're going to find out what that is today and how did she get into this. So welcome, Alexandra. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me on the podcast. Yeah, definitely excited to be here and to chat about all things wellness. And I like to think of myself as a creative wellness coach. So using, yeah, creativity to sort of tap into parts of ourselves
Yeah.
that we've kind of squashed, basically. And get a chance back to play and, explore things again.
Amazing, amazing. So I guess the question would be, and what piqued my interest is, what got you down this avenue? What brought you on this life journey?
Well, it's interesting because as a child, like many children, I was very creative. I did lots of. I had a very well-developed imagination, so I used to make
Okay.
little, houses for people and little, like even outside, like little magical fairy houses and things. Even
Wow.
before that was popular, so I always I loved playing with my imagination, but I was also super curious about the world and nature. And when it came time to think about graduating high school, up until then, I was a very strong split between arts and science. And my parents said, "Look, you can always do art on the side. It's hard to do science on the side. It'd be great if had a job."
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so I went into science at university and I fell in love with molecular biology. I loved learning about genetics and I got into plants because I have to say my first genetics lab involved fruit flies, which I did not love. But
Okay.
but if you think of the olden days with genetics, there was a monk named Gregor Mendel, and he was very into working in the garden with peas and crossing peas and understanding how genetic traits got passed down. And I
Yeah.
and I thought that was just super cool. So I actually went in and I did a bachelor's, I did a master's, I did a PhD, I even
Wow.
did a postdoc. So I pretty much did the academic
Wow.
ladder about as high as you could go.
Yes.
But I found the higher I went up that ladder, the less I liked being in the lab. Um,
Oh.
yeah, my
Oh.
colleagues and I, there are about 8 of us little, postdocs shoved in a tiny office that we all shared, and we all complained that, the reason they called it research is because we kept redoing things all the
Okay.
time. And I think a lot of us got sort of disenchanted with doing what we call the wet lab research. So I actually went to work for a not-for-profit, and then from there, I went and worked with the federal government, and then I went to corporate. And after a bunch of corporate layoffs, I decided to pursue being an entrepreneur, which was something I always planned to do after, retirement. But,
Yes.
my
Yes.
husband's like, the universe is telling you now's your chance. And
Yes.
yeah, so I was trying to figure out a way to marry my love of art and science, and I came back to art. You can see my studio behind me. I
Mhm.
came back to art after my children, I would say, were entering daycare school age, where I had a bit more mental, emotional breathing
Yeah.
room.
Yes.
Yeah, because I was still a working mom, um,
Right.
but I started having, time for myself to be creative, and I realized how much I enjoyed being with the kids and doing stuff with
Mhm.
them. And I thought, why am I just doing it with my kids? Why don't I start doing it again for myself? And
Wow.
that kind of let me sort of tap into getting back to creative. The interesting thing is during the pandemic, like many of us, I worked from home, my kids were home,
Yeah.
and up until then, I'd been, making paintings, I'd been doing juried shows, and during the pandemic, I think because I was working so hard, like 24/7, my company had landed an emergency ventilator government contract. So this was back before the vaccines were readily available. So we all thought we needed the ventilators, to
Right,
live.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had this huge pressure at work to basically almost be on call all the time to get these ready. And then,
Mm,
so I was juggling all the work stuff. I was juggling 2 kids at home, trying to get them, going. And
yes.
I just go into my studio, and what used to be a great outlet for me suddenly got blocked.
Yeah.
And that was when in hindsight now I know what it was, but it was burnout.
Yeah.
And a lot of burnout, it's because you've got unresolved stress, and the stress just
Yeah.
builds up and builds up. And what happens is you almost get numb, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like
Yeah.
everything becomes flavors of gray. Uh,
Mm,
and it wasn't until I was, on yet another endless Zoom call, I just started doodling. And it sounds really simple, but I just started making wavy lines, and I could feel my breathing slow down. I could feel like the tightness in my
mm,
shoulders relax. And I thought,
mm.
being a scientist, I'm like, there's something happening here. And so I
Yes.
started researching art therapy. And while I like a lot of the exercises with art therapy, I also fell in love with coaching. And what I like about coaching is it's very forward focused. It's very, goal oriented, working towards the future, working to, improve yourself. If you think
Yes.
of, I was a competitive swimmer and a lifeguard growing up. So if you think of therapy is the person who's fallen into the pool and doesn't know how to swim, and they just are drowning. And the
Yes.
first concern is get them out of that, right?
Yeah. Safety. Yeah.
Whereas coaching is, the basics, you know how to swim, but you want to get a little faster, you want to get a little smoother, you want to
Yeah.
improve your technique, right?
Yes.
So that's how I explain it to folks who are trying to figure out the difference between, art therapy and what I call creative wellness coaching. And
Right.
yeah, coming from the medical device field, also, we're all familiar with wellness devices. There are Fitbits, there are
Yeah.
Garmin's, right? Like they're there to keep us healthy versus, glucose monitors or, things that are trying to fix a disease or diagnose us, right? So that's how I like to think of, using creativity to get better, get healthier, be more proactive.
That's interesting because if we tap into that, all of us have something that we're very intuitive and creative about. So if we can use that to our advantage instead of just like a little recreational time, but really delve into that to really tap into, yeah, something more to this. That is fascinating. Um, what propels you forward to continue to keep going with this? You have to have a love or passion for it to keep going.
Well, definitely one of the reason I work with women in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math,
Mhm.
is, I've been in many different STEM environments, as I said, government, corporate, and they're quite often toxic environments for women.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
very often male dominated. We're not exposed to show our feelings, like, and
Right.
it's super detail oriented. So a lot of the women that I work with have almost repressed their creativity, or they feel that, they can't be all of themselves.
Yeah.
And so I work with them through doing different, visualization, drawing activities. And we're talking drawing at the level of like Pictionary. This is not like the Mona Lisa. It's
Right.
meant to
Right.
be much like journaling helps you get your thoughts on paper. Sometimes
Yes.
just simple drawings can symbolize so much. And it gives you a different perspective, right? And even just taking the simple time to just think and reflect on thoughts is
Yes.
valuable, right? So often we kind of go through life on autopilot, just getting our
Yes.
to-do list done.
Right. Right. Right.
And I find for a lot of the women I work with, because, I give them a creative exercise, we meet, we talk about it, and we reflect both, I have them reflect during the actual exercise, but then we go back and look at it afterwards. And it's a great snapshot of what they were thinking and feeling at the moment.
Mm.
And you can come back to it months later and see, it's like a temperature gauge, right? You can kind of
Yeah.
see how you're feeling, and are you feeling the same? Have you moved on? Is something different? So
Oh,
it's, they're very simple exercises. One of the ones I use a lot is called the bridge. And the idea is that you sort of draw where you are on one side of the shore, all the things, the struggles and challenges.
Right.
And on the opposite shore, you draw what you're working towards, what an ideal day would be, what would make you happy, content, satisfied.
Yeah.
And you can draw whatever type of bridge you want. You can draw whatever obstacles under the bridge. Is it rapids? Is it an ogre? Is it, like
Wow.
I've seen all kinds of neat things. And then you draw yourself on the bridge. Like, have you even stepped onto the bridge? Is the bridge really rickety? Right? Is it,
Yeah.
so many women you can draw any bridge you want. And yet so many draw these little rickety rope bridges with planks missing. And it's like, why are you making your life more tricky for yourself, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
it's interesting when you start talking about it. And I had one woman who'd drawn these like raging river underneath, and she's like, I don't even swim. Why am I making this harder for myself? Right. So there's a lot of, and there's play, right? Like we
Yes.
laugh quite often, when you
Yes.
sort of sit back and you go, oh, I'm not even near my bridge. The bridge is like over the hill and I haven't even stepped on
Wow.
it yet. So
Wow.
it allows a lot of just different perspective, right? It's like tapping into a different part of your brain and having fun with it.
That is amazing. We talked about burnout, and unfortunately, I have experienced that many a times. Stress, not knowing when to say, okay, enough is enough, and still press to keep going until your body says, okay, it's enough. I'm going to make you shut down. I'm going to make you be still. What you're talking about really plays into that because it gives you a chance to just relax and just focus on the activity that you're doing and not be running to and fro and doing this and that and here and there and everywhere, but just take time out to just focus and relax. What importance do you think in the healing process? Because when you go through burnout, you got to get healed. You can't just jump right back up and get right back into the things you were doing to cause the burnout in the first place. What the what's the importance do you think that what you do plays into that healing process of getting back on track and getting back to a sense of purpose?
A lot of it does, it's that giving yourself permission to pause. You're right. Like,
Mm.
and making choices with intention as opposed to, quite often, again, as women, we are asked to do lots of things, right? Like at work, can you do this next committee? Can you stay late? Can you come in
Right.
early? And quite often we don't feel like we can say no. Or same
Right.
thing with family. Can you, help me with my school project? Can you make dinner? Can you pick up groceries? Can you clean the house? Can you, it's can you? And
Yes.
right. And just even taking time for yourself to just say, look, I'm going to take time to think about what I would like to do. And even just, the simple sketching it out of what your perfect day would look like and realizing, oh, that's interesting. I haven't drawn any people here. I've drawn a hammock. I just want a nap, right?
Mhm.
Like, so it's funny where I've seen some of the pictures where it's like, I've just drawn myself in the woods by myself because I need a break. And a lot of that is just recognizing that permission to give yourself a break, right? And that
Yes.
is part of the healing. And, I have another exercise called batteries. And you basically just draw a little easy rectangle for each of the batteries. And, one's your work, and one's your family, one's your, love life, and one's your health. And you draw where on the battery. Is it 50% full? Is it
Mm.
20% full? And you think about what is draining that battery and what would help fill it up again, right? So you start learning to prioritize what is important to you. And that allows you to claw back some of that time that you need for yourself and that you weren't giving to yourself. So that you mentioned, we fall back into those bad patterns, right? Like if we
Mhm.
don't change the patterns, we will burn out again, right? And
Yes.
a lot of these things, by focusing on where you're spending your time and your energy, you realize, oh, I'm putting all my energy here and none over there for myself. No wonder I'm burning right out. So I
Wow.
need to change something, right? It calls attention to needing to change.
Yes. 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 That is key to realize in yourself that before the burnout happens, because sometimes we wait until it happens and then we're trying to get back. But how can we recognize that? How can we use a tool like focusing and drawing and taking time out to pause? How can we get that to click before something happens? Are there signs that you think we can pick up on to help us realize that I need to put something in place instead of keep going and going and going until I burn out?
Oh, definitely. Like, the first part about anything is awareness, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest issue for, a lot of the women who are on the fence of working with me saying, it's, I want to work with you. I just don't know if I have time to do another thing.
Mm,
And a lot of the women after they've worked with me is like, oh, I've gotten all this time back because I've figured out what matters to me. Right. But you do have to take that first step of, of, of being willing to try, right? Like you have to be
yes,
willing to take the time for yourself and give yourself a moment to step away from things. But
yes,
it's like starting, a fitness program. You say you want to, run a marathon, but you don't start by running the marathon. You start by going for a walk around the block, right? Like
right,
you do the baby steps leading you up
right,
to
right,
that, right? But you have to start. That's the other thing,
yes,
right?
yes, yes. And that's important to just start. If we look at the big picture is going to be scary. And like you said, some of the ladies said, I want to, do it, but I don't have time. But sometimes we have to make time. We make time for the things we really want to do. So we have to make ourselves and the things that keep us healthy and active and vibrant, we have to make ourselves a priority. So what do you say to that person that does say that? That I really want to work with you, but I can't add one more thing. I can't put one more thing on my plate. What do you say to that person that just they obviously they want to work with you because they reached out, but it's a wall there. How do you counteract that wall that they've put up about time?
It's I do it's a it's sort of a future vision of yourself, right? So
Okay.
I do a bit of a walkthrough of, okay, this is where you are right now. You are stressed to the gills. You're not sleeping. You are eating unhealthy, right? Like you know you're doing all the things that are not good for you, but you can't figure out how to get out of it. And I get them to think about, let's take a year from now. Let's take 5 years from now.
Mm.
What would you like that to look like? Right. And then we start to reverse engineer what it would take to get there, right?
Okay.
And part of that is making changes, right? Like, and that's
Right.
part of, again, you have to be willing to make the changes, but you also have to recognize that what you're doing is not sustainable and you will burn out. And we have conversations about that too. It's like, how are you feeling right now? How would you rather feel? How do you get there? How do you make these changes? But a lot of them, I just say, look, let's think about how you want to look 6 months from now. How do you want to feel in a year from now? Right. And then, yeah, let's take a step backwards from that. Let's take a step backwards for that. And you sort of chunk it up smaller and smaller until you say, okay, the first choice is, do you want to do this? Right.
Hmm.
And, but they have to see the vision of themselves, right? Like they have to buy into that belief that they want that. Right.
Yes. 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 That is awesome. That's amazing because it makes you tap into you. And sometimes we really don't want to go there. We don't want to, we can see others and what they need to do, but we don't really want to tap into us because it may seem like a weakness. Like, I help people. Why would it then seem like I need help? People look for me to keep going, and I can't shut down. But when you said about sometimes even family, we can't say no. And we feel we have to keep going until we can't go anymore. So it's best for us to be healthy, the healthiest version of us that we can be. And we were talking about different levels of women, different women in different careers that um, may burn out, on the verge of burnout, that may seek you. But how many single moms reach out for help? Because that's untapped. avenue where we feel, well, especially if it's a housewife or a single mom that maybe works at home and the kids are home with her. What percentage of your clientele fits that genre?
Well, definitely, I have a lot of women who are caring for elderly parents and still
Mm,
caring for, they call it the sandwich generation, right? Where you still
yeah,
have kids at home, elderly parents, and
yeah,
yeah, they're juggling a lot. And while, a few of them are married, I would say that they are, their husband travels a lot. So they are
mhm,
essentially doing it on their own, right?
yes,
So but yeah, I would say for definitely the women who are, either they've lost a partner or their partner's left, and yeah, they still need to be strong for
yeah,
themselves, right?
yeah,
So, but they also have to realize they can ask for support, which is hard, right? Because we have a sense is that showing weakness to ask for help,
yes,
right?
yeah,
Like, is there somebody that can come in and watch your children for the day while you go to the gym for yourself, or just even take a nap, right? Or have somebody in to clean the house?
yes,
Maybe, even once a month would just lighten that burden, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's you have to make almost compromises with yourself of what you'll give off your plate, right?
yeah,
Because yes, if you keep piling on your plate, you're gonna collapse.
yes, yes. And I'm glad you said that because, especially with moms, we feel that we have to put everything else first before we put, and I'm a grandma now, but even in that, I still try to put, even my children are adults. My daughter just turned, well, on St. Patrick's Day, actually, she'll turn 42. So, and I think, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it. We was supposed to record earlier in the week, and she was in the hospital. So yeah, I felt my duty as a mom was to put everything else aside. Even though she's 41, I felt I needed to be there for her and take care of my granddaughter, setting aside that I have health issues myself. So I was running back and forth to the hospital with her, running back and forth with I live on one side of town, my granddaughter goes to school on the other side of town, and traffic was hectic in the mornings trying to get her to school. But I had to do it, so it's important that and I understand that now at this age, but when I was the mom with three kids and no help, and I had to really struggle and mentally try to balance some things out, I wish I knew what I know now. And I wished I knew people like you that I could have reached out to say you need to slow down. You need to push some of those things on other plates and focus on you and making sure you're okay for your children. And I think as moms and wives and the many other hats that women wear, even on the job, we put the job first, we bring the job home. We don't know how to really just separate and unwind. And sometimes when we do unwind, it's hard to get back in, so that's why we don't want to unwind. But I really value what you do and the aspect that you bring to actually think, give your allow yourself time to just decompress and come down. And you look at things differently when this is not so crowded and you can't get anything through, not even your own vision sometimes. Um, is it anything you would like to share with us? Anything that, specifically that you would like to talk about?
Well, definitely, I always, say I have a number of free resources on my website because people are always like, well, I'd love to try it. And definitely, I've had a lot of people say, what is creativity coaching? And I was like, well, I've got this, free challenge on my website. It's called the 5-Day Creative Reset Challenge. And basically, you sign up for it and you get an email each day, 5 days. And there's a little video of me demonstrating in my studio. Uh, creative activity, and there's a series of little journaling prompts. And so you can get a taste of what it's like to do it. And that'll give yourself a break, right? Like, give yourself
Yes,
permission to try it out and play, steal some of your kids' Crayolas and, give it a whirl. Because,
yes,
it's there's so many things out there for us to explore. And again, we put our kids in all kinds of activities, right? We feel like
Yeah.
maybe I'm speaking for myself, but my kids did music and they did swimming and they did skating and they, like, yeah, I drove everywhere with them. My husband and I
Yes.
almost never saw each other because we had two kids. One drove one kid
Right.
one way, one kid drove the other kid the other way, right? So, and somehow we don't question the fact that our kids deserve everything. But again, as parents, we kind of think, oh, well, that's 20 years. And then after the kids leave the house, then we'll get our lives back. But
Yeah.
it's not really, that's how it plays out sometimes, but it doesn't have to, right? Like,
Right. 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 Right.
so we can carve time for ourselves and we need to, because
Yes.
again, we're the role parents. We are the role models as parents
Right.
for our
Right.
children, right? And if they think, oh God, mom just sacrificed herself for us, when they become a parent, they'll think, they're going to play out the things they've seen played out, right?
Yeah.
So we need to show that it's okay to take a break. It's okay to take time for yourself, right? So again, that's a great lesson for kids to learn too, that it's okay
Yeah.
to ask for help, right?
Right. And that's a great point because we live in what we call that microwave society where everything has to be right now. So we feel we need to move right now. We need to make this objective, that trajectory, do this, do that, do this. And it gets to the point where you don't know which direction you're going anymore. You're not really living, you're just existing. And you exist to please everybody else and you put yourself on the back burner. And I'm speaking from experience, why I know it so well. But you have to take that time for you, and this is one of the ways that you can do that. Sounds like a fun way, uh, a way to get those creative juices going, and to just slow down and help yourself. And when you help yourself, you could be that person to others that pull on you. Could seem like sometimes you're being pulled in a million directions, and you feel like you have to have a million fingers, a million arms to reach all those directions. But reality, we don't have that. We have to prioritize the things that we have to do in order, and then we have to prioritize ourselves as important enough to do what we need to do to sustain us so that we can assist others. So I appreciate the work you do, and was so glad that you were willing to come on and share some of those highlights of that creativeness that we all have, and to help us draw that out, literally.
Literally, yes.
Literally help us draw that out and bring some normalcy where sometimes the world is just, it makes us crazy and we want to pull our hair out and just scream. But here go an alternative. You don't have to do that. Just calm down, get some creativeness going, and just check out the website with the free resources, and we'll have your links included where they can tap on and see if it's something that, I took the time to do this, so let me invest a little more time in me. So I don't want to leave without fully getting everything I could get from you. Is it anything else you would like to share?
No, it's just, again, if anyone's curious, just reach out to me. I'm always happy to have, I call it a clarity call, where you just sort of talk through whether this is for you or not and what it could look like. Because I do also, like, I do one-on-one coaching and I do group coaching. And it depends if you're looking for community with women going through similar things. And
Yes.
we do, a lot of sharing and stories, and we still do the we talk about the creative exercises together as a group. Or if you want to go deeper and do one-on-one coaching with me, and that brings up a lot of changes. And um definitely the women who go through that say, yeah, I'm a different person, or I'm a better person, right? So
Right.
yeah, definitely, my website's Mind Art Wellness. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me, or yeah, just poke around on the website. There's lots of fun things to try out.
Yes, yes, amazing. And once again, thank you so much for the work you do and for the women you have helped and the ones you will help. Because I know, even myself, it would be something that I would be interested in trying. The schedule gets really tight sometimes, not only because I'm an entrepreneur besides this, I'm in my office now. I do oils and other natural products. So the schedule gets tight sometimes. So yeah, I want to wind down and draw too. I want to relax myself. So
Excellent.
definitely check out. I know I'll be checking out the website. You all definitely check out the website. Great to have you here. Hopefully one day you can come back and we can explore some more. So if you would like to send an email, send it to a woman soul restored at gmail.com. The website is www.livelifenow.lovelifenow.net. And the Facebook page is A Woman Soul Restored. To our YouTube audience, the YouTube um, A Woman Soul Restored. We're branded. So thank you, Lexi, so much for just sharing what you do and the importance of it, because it is important. We don't need to take it lightly. We do need to take time for us and tap into that creativeness and see what it draws out and brings out in you. So I am Latanya Y. Hendry along with Lexi Reid for A Woman's Soul Restored. And remember, it's never too late for your soul to be restored. Have a blessed week. Bye bye.